I'm the beatboxer for Rutgers Rock, and I will be your host tonight. See, we at Rutgers Rock are very thrilled to have all of you here and share this event with all of you. Now, what does Shaam-e-Rang mean? Shaam-e-Rang means an evening of colors. And it really sums up this event because, like, acapella isn't just a group of individuals trying to make music, right? It's these intricate, delicate, diverse pieces creating this puzzle that makes this explosion of colors. And every year at Shaam-e-Rang, we like to invite an acapella clinician. And this year, we had the privilege of having Matt Goldstein. Matt Goldstein helped us this year, helped with the teams, trying to get them really ready for their performance tonight to give you the best show that we can possibly give you. Now, Matt, I'd like to invite you to the stage.
Hello. Matt is me. Hi. So, my name is Matt Goldstein, and I had the pleasure of working with all the groups that you're going to see perform today. And I've been doing a cappella for about 9 years now, or as normal people would say, too long. But this is in 9 years of a cappella. This is my first Southeast Asian Fusion a cappella festival, which is, And I had an absolute blast today. Well, people were asking me, like, so what was it like working with fusion groups? And I was like, it's still weird mouth sounds, it's the same thing. But no, it was an absolute pleasure working with everyone today. And a cappella is kind of a funky thing because sometimes people are like, well, what's the point? Like, where are the instruments? Why are you singing these songs and where'd all the instruments go? But I think it's kind of cool, especially with a lot of the songs the groups that are performing today. There's a lot of songs about empowerment and, finding our voice. And a cappella is kind of cool because it is, I think, the most literal way to see that everyone's voice really is important. And you're seeing everyone up here, and without 1, 2, 5 of these parts, it would not happen. It would not be the same. And I think that's what's so cool, too, about being at a concert of fusion music like this, because you are seeing literally 2 different cultures and how both of those voices and styles are important and can coexist and be so powerful when they're put together in a really awesome way. So I'm excited to see the show tonight. I hope you guys are too. And after we are done with our classes today, we kind of go around with each of the groups and just say, what is one word that describes how you're feeling right now after working for an hour or 2.5 hours? How are you feeling? And we got a bunch of different words. We got some words that I really related to, like hungry. And then we got some, overwhelmed. And it's true, singing and being that emotionally vulnerable is overwhelming sometimes. But we also got some awesome words like empowered and inspired, which is kind of, the goal when you're working with music is to make people feel empowered. And I think my favorite moments of the day were, and with each group there were these moments where you kind of see in someone's eyes that they were maybe pushed outside of their comfort zone a little bit, and then they finished and they took a breath and they said, hey, I did something that I didn't realize I could maybe do. I sang that in a way that I don't think I could, or I emoted in a way that I haven't before. And you can just kind of tell in people's eyes, it's like, I am capable of more than I thought I was. And it's a cool look to see in someone's eyes, and I hope you guys get to see it tonight. So how do I get off? Bye.
Thanks, Matt. Please enjoy the show. So I know you guys have been waiting here for a while, so let's just kick this off. First off, we've got a group of crazy kids coming out of Massachusetts. They've recently dropped an EP called Spark, and tonight they'll be dropping a spark on stage here. Give it up for MIT-O! That was a great start. I know I was jumping. What about you guys? Great job, MIT. Okay, so apparently Penn State is in the building. I don't know. Invited them. But, I mean, you guys are literally killing us in football like every year. And now they're going to kill it on stage here. Right. Well, without further ado, please give it up for Penn State Funa. So Rutgers Rock has released our debut album. And the album is currently on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, you name it. And if you're old school like me and want a physical copy, we're also selling that here at the ticketing booth. So, please, come on. They're really nice CDs. Really good. Number one. CDs right there. So, and we're also having a raffle for them. $1 per ticket or $3 for 5. So, with that, I'd like to start the intermission. Relax, talk, gup-shup, everything. Program, we are immensely proud to announce that this year's charity is the Manavi organization. We have a representative here, Navneet, and she will be giving a few words about the great work they've been doing so far.
Good evening. On behalf of Manavi, I first want to thank the Executive Board, or Shaam-e-Rang, and Rutgers Rock for hosting this fantastic event. I wish I'd gotten here much earlier. So thank you for doing that, and a special heartfelt thank you for choosing Manavi as a charity that you support, and we truly sincerely appreciate your support and everyone's support here. I'm not going to go through every single slide because I know everyone's not going to like to be just talked at, but just to give you a brief overview of the work that I feel very passionate about, and I hope you all also feel engaged about moving forward. So, the word Manavi means a woman in Sanskrit. We're based right here in New Brunswick. Manavi is the very first South Asian women's organization that was founded in the United States of America in 1985, so over 3 decades ago. We were established by 6 South Asian women, and the one particular case that inspired the organization to kind of spring into action was the case of Amita Vadlamudi. She was an immigrant, battered woman who had been subjected to such severe domestic violence, sexual abuse, that she resorted to killing her husband. And as you can imagine, back then, this was something that was not talked about. It was a private matter, and this particular case actually brought the whole issue of domestic violence into the public domain. Our mission is to end all forms of gender-based violence against women and girls. And as I say that, I also want to point out that we also do support survivors who are men. We have had men who've been survivors of domestic violence, and we've supported them too. And our goal and mission is two-pronged. On the one hand, we do address the immediate needs of women on a day-to-day basis who are subjected to domestic violence, but at the same time, we also have a very long-term vision. And that vision is to establish communities which are free from gender-based violence. This is just a brief, just to have a brief understanding of the community that we serve. So when we look at or think about serving immigrants, we serve naturalized citizens, permanent residents, women who come from Indian spouses who are dependent on their husbands. We also deal with transnational abandonment. Immigration is a huge barrier and an issue for domestic violence, especially in the current political climate. It's something that is a very significant and real barrier and threat for survivors. We also serve temporary workers and undocumented survivors. And again, in the current climate, being undocumented and a survivor makes it that much harder for that particular person to seek help. We also serve second generation. We've had survivors who were born and raised in the US, with issues such as dating violence. So all of those things come under play, and that's something that we do. Next slide. Just to briefly go over the services, we are one of the few South Asian organizations that actually has a 24/7 hotline, which I'm very proud to say is totally staffed by very dedicated volunteers from Manvi over many, many years. We obviously provide advocacy, counseling, crisis intervention, and one of the most important things as a South Asian women's organization is that we provide culturally and linguistically appropriate services for survivors. So I speak 5 languages. Between all our staff, we cover a lot of South Asian languages. And that, I think, is really important because I just want to picture, for you to picture the scenario that a survivor who has been subjected to domestic violence and sexual abuse is unable to speak the language in this country. How would that person even know how to navigate the system or seek help if they don't even speak the language? And I think that makes their abuse that much tougher and the barriers that much tougher. So language access is a very real issue that we deal with. We have sexual assault support services. We have a legal advocacy program. I used to practice as an attorney years ago, so I understand the legal issues where, again, someone who is unfamiliar with the legal system, someone who doesn't realize not only how to seek help, but doesn't realize what legal resources are available to them. It makes it that much tougher for them. We do outreach and education. This is part of outreach, talking to people about the work we do. And just going back to legal advocacy program for a second, although we don't have in-house attorneys at Manavi, we have relationships with attorneys and we provide legal clinics so they can have a 2-hour free consultation initially, half an hour initial consultation, and then based upon that, later on, we can try to assist them with other services. We also have economic empowerment, and what that really means in a nutshell is, and I just wanted to share one very quick example. We had a survivor who had been abandoned with very young children. She couldn't speak the language. She came to us, this is going back over 12, 15 years. We provided her with not only counseling, advocacy, I would say we provided her with pretty much most of those services. Today, that particular survivor is an entrepreneur who lives in Jersey City. I think that deserves a round of applause, yes. Her children back then were 2, 5, and I think 3 very young children. Now, those 3 kids have a fantastic college education. I met the woman and her children, and the kids are so much more empowered and fully aware of the journey that their mother went through. And that not only touches me, but also makes me more empowered as a woman to know that we're able to provide the services we do. Cultural competency training we provide. I actually go around different police departments to provide cultural competency training. I've been in Jersey City, Edison, different law enforcement offices, and the goal there is to not only just talk about Manavi and our services, but to train, to provide a cultural competency training for police officers who are addressing this issue head-on on the streets, and for them to be fully aware what a South Asian survivor goes through on a daily basis and what they need to be aware of in terms of cultural sensitivities. The last one really should be perhaps the top. One of the reasons, when I first joined Manavi, one of the things that attracted me most was our transitional home called Ashiana. So Ashiana is a transitional home, culturally specific transitional home, and it's the only one in the East Coast. It's the only South Asian culturally specific home in the East Coast, and one of only 3 such homes in the entire country. In the first 5 years of when this was founded, the home was founded, and this is going back in 1997, we had approximately, I think it was 139 or 140 requests for survivors who needed to be housed because they were subjected to such severe abuse with their partners in their marital home that they had nowhere to go. So there is significant need for this home. We can only, it's a very small house currently. We can only house 9 women at a time, and we have a waiting list, but usually the one distinction between a transitional home and a shelter is that in random or standard shelters, survivors are housed and they have to leave within a very short period of time, like a month or 2 months. With a transitional home, what we do is we make sure that we give them a very long length of time so they can stay up to a year and a half. This particular survivor that I was just speaking about, who is a very successful businesswoman today, stayed in Ashiana for, I think, approximately a year and a half. And we made sure she was totally back on her feet and ready to be integrated back into society. Next one. 2 minutes? Oh, then I better wrap up. Okay. So let's move to the next one. I think I already touched on what the legal advocacy program looks like. We do the legal clinics, we help with immigration, family law, we do court accompaniments, and we can move on. Sexual violence and barriers. And what I'm going to do is we can actually forget the slides because we have 2 minutes. I'm just going to wrap up in a more substantive point that I really want to make here. And you can check out our website, manvi.org, and you can email me. I'm the executive director. It's navneet@manvi.org. If you would like to get involved and get engaged. The one thing I would like for all of you to take away, if anything, I usually think when there's a presentation, there should be some takeaway. And there are 3 things, very quickly, which I refer to as a call to action for anyone listening to work that nonprofits do. And that would be, number 1, that it's really important that each of you steps up and speaks out and creates a safe space, not just in your communities, in your home, in your places of worship. It's important that women and survivors have a safe space, and that if you witness or hear of anything which you think is domestic violence or any form of abuse, it's important that you speak out. Second would be that you advocate to your local elected officials, public officials, legislators, especially now. I'm going to keep saying that, especially now, because right now, a lot of communities are under threat. And it's really important that right now you advocate and lobby that they not only speak out publicly against gender-based violence, but that they pass policies and legislation like violence, like WAWA, which is legislation that needs to be reauthorized and hasn't been. And the very last one would be, please support organizations like ours and every other women's organization out there to advance the South Asian women's movement. That's something that cannot be done, and it's important that men are equally engaged in the South Asian women's movement. We need men alongside women for this movement to be advanced, and for us to ensure that we establish a community free from gender-based violence. And please volunteer your time, donate, and stay engaged. Thank you.
Thank you, Navneet. What an amazing campaign that is. Again, if you really want to find out more about Manavi, you can access them online at manavi.org. So, let's get back into acapella, right? That's what we're here for, right? And our next group is these quirky kids from Maryland. And, you know, Maryland is something funny about Maryland. Everywhere you go, they rep mad hard. You'll see their flag literally everywhere. Cars, tattoos, houses, everywhere. But can anyone tell me what the New Jersey flag looks like? Yellow. I can't. I just know what. It's like blue, yellow. I don't know. But you know, even though I don't know maybe Maryland flag or New Jersey flag that well, I do know that this a cappella team from Maryland is pretty awesome. Please give it up for you and Dianoka.
Oh shit! My bad. Anoka, how do you feel?
We feel good! Oh, we feel so good! Ooh, ah!
Hey! Go Anoka! Woo! That's my team! Go Cosmo!
Hold my hand, ooh baby, it's a long way down to the bottom of the river. Hold my hand, ooh baby, it's a long way down, a long way down. If you get sleep or if you get numb,
The clock's gonna call in the morning, baby.
check that cupboard for your daddy's gun.
Red sun rises like an early warning.
The Lord's gonna come for your firstborn son.
His hair's on fire and his heart is burning.
Go to the river where the water runs.
Washing deep where the tides are turning.
If you fall,
If you fall, hold my hand.
मेरी बेबसी का बयान है बस चल रहा ना इस घड़ी मेरी बेबसी का बयान है बस चल रहा ना इस घड़ी रस हसरत खाने छोड़ दूं बस बाहों में आ तोड़ दूं चाहूं क्या जानूं ना छीन लूं छोड़ दूं इस लम्हे क्या कर जाऊं इस लम्हे क्या कर दूं मैं जो मुझे चैन मिले आराम मिले apologies. This is me.
Another round of bullets hits my skin. But I'm ready to say all of the strength again. We are bursting through the barricades and reaching for the sky. Warriors, yeah, that's who we become.
I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us. For your glory, it's gonna cut me down.
When the sharpest words wanna cut me
Satisfied,
down.
you're drowning out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me.
Look out, 'cause here I come. Here I come. And I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen. I make no apologies. This is me. And I know that I deserve your love.
There's nothing I know. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down. This is brave.
This is
Proof. This is who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come.
Look out, 'cause here I come.
Marching on, marching on. This is me. This is me.
Yeah, no go.
Wow. Just wow. Literally, my face was like just wide open. I was just like, that's crazy. That was amazing. Can I get another round of applause for you and me, Loka? All right. Well, next up, we've got the neighbors of MIT Ohms, living right across the river. Please give it up for the beautiful and amazing Biu Suno!
She's coming closer. I don't know why she knows that I know him. Beautiful child with those side eyes. That was my type. And she over. I can see you breathing, boy. It's colder. I can see you need me, but I don't care. My whole memory of you and love gone too far from me for myself. I can feel it almost start to change.
Let's go, beatboxer!
How did he do that? Well, wasn't that beautiful? Sorry, I had to. It's too easy. It's too easy. Well, right now we're preparing the stage for the next performances, and I guess we're prepared. Okay, so up next we have Rutgers' very own classical dancing group. Are you not young? I'm just gonna leave it at that. All right. Last, not least, I'd like to bring up a very nice, amazing group. My very own Rutgers Rock!
Remember the words you told me, love me till the day I die. Surrender my everything, 'cause you made me believe you're mine. Yeah, you used to call me baby, now you call me. Takes one to know when now you beat me on down. Pushing you, pull away from you. Giving you take. Young blood, say you want me. Out of your life, and I'm just a dead man walking tonight. But you need it all the time. Lately our conversations end like it's the last goodbye. One of us gets too drunk and calls about 100 times. Who you been calling baby? Nobody can take my place. When you're looking at those strangers, oh, to God, just see my face. Pushing you, pulling away from you. Giving you take. Young blood, say you want me. Out of your life, and I'm just a dead man walking tonight. But you need it all the time. Young blood, say you want me. Back in your life, and I'm just a dead man walking tonight. I need it all the time. Pushing you away from you. Giving you take. Young blood. Running away from you. Young blood, say you want me. Out of your life, and I'm just a dead man walking tonight. But you need it all the time. Young blood, say you want me. Out of your life, and I'm just a dead man walking tonight. It's gotten out of line. Just try to understand my side. No lie, you are on my case. So won't you just give me some time? Just go and say you know your place. Just go and say you know your place. Just go and say you know your place. Please don't be afraid. Just need some space.
Well then, I don't want to, brag or anything. I think that was pretty good, right? Can I get another round of applause? So, as the night comes to a conclusion, there's a few huge shout outs. You know, there's a lot of people involved in making Stir an actual thing. And just so I don't forget anyone and I don't offend anyone, I really need to get this list down. So first up, we have our gold sponsors that have really contributed a lot this year. We have Joy Lucas, Talk of the Town, and Eggmania. All these people, Oak Tree Road, what's up. Another shout out to the amazing Matt Goldstein for coming out tonight. Another shout out to Manavi Organization for battling violence against women. Shout out to our co-sponsors, BSU and DIA. BSA is holding their annual Tiger Fest, December 1st, if you're interested. And DIA is having their Chai House event on November 16th. Finally, I would like to bring up the Stir Board. So first up, we have Swati Vasudevan and Shrika Gurupati as our co-presidents this year. Next, we have Michelle Phillip as our Director of Internal Affairs. Next, we have Director of External Affairs, Shaam-e-Rang. Last but not least, yours truly, this year's Team Director, Pranav Bojraj.